Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mogul Performance Podcast, where we develop leaders, we talk about leadership, and we are passionate about leadership. I want to welcome you all back to the Mogul Journey Podcast, where we talk to leaders who have built themselves from being broken and then rebuilt their own paths and share the stories that they've made to be the quote unquote moguls that they are today. So just a quick promotion that I want to go into. If you are interested in expanding and developing your leadership capabilities, go ahead and check us out on the Mogul Performance website. And we have plenty of free resources on there for you to download. Those should automatically pop up on there. If not, there's a resources tab. You can have all those to really help identify some of your pain points, such as delegation and establishing priorities. So, with that promo aside, today's guest is someone who embodies the definition of what we explain what being a mogul is like, and that is Logan McKnight. She is a consultant and a trusted advisor for medtech executives. Logan has over 20 years building and scaling clinical services, medical devices, and medtech teams. She's led companies through crises, grown revenue across multiple markets, and most importantly, she's helped leaders scale without burning themselves out and also their teams. Her philosophy, that's sustainable leadership doesn't come from choosing between performance and people. It comes from mastering both of those. Logan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
That
So
was great hype.
yeah. No, I'm so honored to have you on here. Being in the field of healthcare now for the past year and a half, I think it's important for you to be on here and to kind of share your perspective from the healthcare lens. I see a lot of parallels in the things that I faced when I was in the military. I almost like to say there's a little bit more uh I don't want to say drama, but there's more weight that's involved because there's a lot more pressure, right?
Mhm.
In the military, there's pressure when you're deployed, and there's all these different things going on. And then the same thing happens in the OR room, right? Where you don't know, you don't even, or the ER, you don't know what's going to be showing up. So there's so much pressure that's involved, and I'm just honored to have you on here to kind of share some of your experience. But before we begin, I like to kind of kick us off with just getting to know who you are. So tell us about your life before you jumped into the professional workforce. Like, where are you from? Where'd you go to school at? Kind of what was your developmental life like? Those kind of things.
Yeah, no, I grew up in a small town just outside Toledo, Ohio, and I was, good old Midwest girl and just grew up in the burbs of Ohio. And then I always wanted to be, I was obsessed with animals. I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I went to Bowling Green State University and was pre-med or pre-vet. And then when I was kind of going through that, I actually shadowed a veterinarian because I wanted to be an exotic animal, large animal vet. And she basically told me not to do it. She was like, if you love animals, go be a doctor and go own a bunch of animals. But, being a veterinarian is extremely hard, physically, what it puts your body through. And then your patients are also always very unwilling to receive treatment, And so
Mhm.
I was like, huh, I hadn't thought of it that before. So for better or worse, I was like in my junior year, not sure where to go. And neuromonitoring kind of found me. And that's the space I kind of jumped in from there. But that was my journey up till then, just being a kid in the Midwest.
What a what a great opportunity that was, because that happens so many times where people are getting young, early 20s, maybe even still in their late teens, are kind of going through college, and they're like, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do, but they don't spend a day, just job shadowing and just kind of seeing,
Mhm.
how what the day to day, what that looks like. So that's great that you had that, because that sounds like it was a very pivotal point in your career trajectory.
Absolutely. I mean, and just at that point in time, my cousin had dropped out of med school, like her third year in. And, that was a tough thing too, because I realized like, man, if I decide this isn't for me after I go through it, like you're saddled with all of the debt, and
Mhm.
all the things. And it's very hard to pivot your career once you get into that much education and kind of beyond. So for better or worse, I'm glad that that happened.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Um, so when you when you think, so going into your professional career, when you think back to your early days as a technologist, or leading in the OR, or managing teams, what standouts do you have as a pivotal moment that shaped your leadership philosophy?
Yeah, I think about this a lot as I'm like pulling together stories and like, working with people and also like, putting out content and things like that. And like the harsh reality is, I don't know if I really had a good role model as far as a leader. And I think that actually helped shape me because sometimes, you learn just as much what not to do as what to
Hmm.
do. And so I think for better or worse, when I first got into leadership, I had all of these, okay, this is how I'm not going to show up. Like I'm going to show up and I'm going to care and I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be there for my people. And what I also learned is there's a pendulum swing there because you can't also stay in that space of being kind of this protector,
Hmm.
hero, mama bear,
Yep.
for the long term because it that mentality might, build trust. It's like the I think General Patton says like I won't lead you somewhere where I haven't been. Or take you to do something I haven't done.
Hmm.
But, at some point you've done it and you have to kind of move on. But I think my early leadership, that was really like who I was I'm going to show up, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to show my team that I'm willing to do the things that they have. And I earned a lot of trust that way. And honestly, I also learned and grew my relationships with my surgeons and my
Hmm.
teams in the OR. And so it's extremely relationship driven, and still am. But that was probably like my North Star as far as being a leader.
Yeah, no, those, yeah, definitely those, I mean, for those, anyone right now who is maybe working with, a tough boss or toxic, right? Whatever word you want to use there, those are the probably the most pivotal leadership lessons you'll learn. I was fortunate enough when I kind of first started off my career, I had some very good leaders that I worked with. I like loved showing up to work, and we were just honestly, we were just kicking ass. And
Mhm.
then suddenly I was moved over into a different you could say department, and it was literally quote, "Welcome to the suck," right? And that's kind of how I was like, welcomed into this new department. And the leadership there is it was terrible. It was so bad. There was no communication. I remember one day like they just had us moving boxes just in and out, and I'm like, why are we moving like thousands of tons of equipment and from one place to another? This makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I asked my leadership, and they were like, I don't know, like, we just got to do it. And I asked their leadership, like, I don't know. And so like I'm kind of like I go up, I had to, it took me a month to go up the chain to kind of figure out what was going on. At the end of the day, it was about inventory. That's all I needed to know, right? So like when you have
Right.
people on the front line, you just got to communicate with them, build that rapport with them. Leading. I just had a podcast earlier, and we're talking about how leading behind a desk doesn't work. You can't do that. You get like you're out there, you're building rapport with your team, right
Yeah.
up front. I'm assuming that was a driver for you because that wasn't something that was there when you had these other leaders that you were working for.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it felt very, and not only that, they were also very different people, like face to face than they were like through email. And that to me always just really drove me nuts that like they would be, like I would really enjoy my time with them. And then all of a sudden they would get behind their keyboard. And it was like, oh, who is this person sending this email or, communicating? And so when they got behind the desk, it's like they all of that positivity got diluted.
Hmm.
And then 90% of my interaction with them, because it was a big remote workforce, was email and things like that. So it's like, yeah, you lose trust when
Hmm.
people don't show up consistently and they're not in it with you. And you also feel like if they're just being a corporate mouthpiece, it's like,
Yeah.
you want your leaders to advocate for you and to have your back, and if they're not understanding what you're going through, then how can they have your back?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And like you mentioned, like kind of like within the remote workforce as well. I mean, it's one thing being in office. Communication's way easier when you're in office. When everything kind of started shifting to remote, that just jostled the entire world when it came to
Yeah.
communication and engagement in the workforce because like people just didn't I don't think people just realized that they like you need to have intentional time, and those got to be scheduled on account. Some of these times just need to be scheduled just maybe it's not like a check-in or a one-to-one. It's just a, hey, what's up? how's life? How are your kids doing, right? And it just
Yeah.
put it on the calendar, and it may, sometimes you might get some eye rolls here and there, but I mean, at the end of the day, the message is being told that, hey, I care. I want to get to know you, and I want to know how you operate. So when we're tasked with certain things, like, I can identify like what you're passionate about or whatever those things are.
Yeah. No, I mean, to your point, like, I think when you're scheduling your one-on-ones with your team, giving that little, like, that little bit of time in the beginning just to like, hey, how are you? Ugh, like my toddler would not sleep last night. Like, show that you're
Hmm.
human, and then, as a leader, like, you have to show your vulnerability and who you are
Hmm.
as a person for people to reciprocate that back to you. And
Hmm.
it does it, like I said, that builds trust. And those little, I just watched like a podcast with the Diary of a CEO, and they had Brene
Hmm.
Brown on, and one of the things she was talking about was like, who fills your marbles, and marbles being these little moments of trust that you
Hmm.
build. And it's not these like big elaborate speeches you make during times of crises. It's like the little moments where you ask, hey,
Hmm.
how's your kids? Like, hey, how's your dad? I know, like, you recently had to move him into like, a home, and like, or like he's got Alzheimer's. Like, what, that just caring and asking builds trust. And so when the hard moments have, like, you've got like kind of a credit of trust built up that you're not having to create it out of thin
Hmm.
air. I mean, it's important.
Yeah, and I'm curious. So speaking of like filling your marbles, right? Like the work that you do, you are out there kind of giving yourself out, and sometimes that might even involve being kind of like an emotional sponge for all different kinds of like leaders, and different, within healthcare or not. So I'm curious, is who fills your marbles?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, to be honest, like, the advising, coaching, whatever you want to call it, I really do enjoy that. Like, I feel like being, sometimes I'll work with people and they're like, sorry, you're not my therapist. And I feel like, and I'm like, that's the thing is, it's very hard to separate like the two. Like, you're dealing with the whole person. Like, if you're like, oh, well, I'm just getting like coaching on my work persona.
Hmm.
Sorry, like, it's the whole persona. It's how you show up
Hmm.
everywhere. And so I think for me, also realizing that, like, the way like that fills my cup in kind of an interesting way. Like, I love creating impact and giving back to
Hmm.
people, and I really enjoy like one-on-one conversations. I'm not like, as much as I like a good party, I
Hmm.
I much more enjoy like a deep one-on-one conversation with somebody. And so I enjoy that. And then, if everything gets too much, like, I live out in the Pacific Northwest. We have a 100-year-old cabin out in the middle of nowhere. So I love to hike, and being in nature, like, that's
Hmm.
what kind of brings me back. I'm very fortunate to have a good group of friends and things like that. But to be honest, I'm kind of an extroverted introvert. So I
Yeah.
like spending a little time like getting some exercise, clearing my head, being out in nature. I feel like gets me back to like baseline, and able to receive from people
Yeah.
a bit more.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And I've seen some of the photos that you've posted as well. I think there was one you were hiking. It looked like it was kind of cold, but I think you were with your dog. Was that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I always bring I have two pretty big dogs, and so they're one of them, or if not both, are always with me.
Yeah. Well, man, I swear we could go down a whole nother rabbit hole. I'm not gonna take us there. I always talk about like leadership and dogs and how there's like so many parallels. We're not gonna go there, but I saw your dog, and your dog looks is a beautiful dog.
Thanks.
Um, so not to take us too far off track. So we've uh you know, or sorry, you have been through some high stakes situations, right? Within the work that you've done,
Yeah.
hospital shutdowns, acquisitions, scaling across states. All of those three are extremely hard to do. So, what were some of the toughest calls that you had to make as a leader, and what did that teach you?
Man, there are so many. COVID, I basically became the CEO in at the end of 2019, so right before COVID. And I was actually like, I was told by our owner I was the CEO. I got an email went out one day, so I was like a non-consensual CEO. Like, it just kind of happened, for
Trial
better
by
or worse.
fire.
Yeah,
Yeah, or
exactly.
battlefield promotion. That's what they say. Yeah.
100%. And I was fortunate that I brought on a COO to help me during that time. But I think the shutdowns, and then, like, we enacted some furloughs and pay cuts, and those were always hard. And I actually through my career, I've had to lay off or let go of 52 people. And I know it's 52 because I know each of their names
Mhm.
and each decision, and because I also personally did it. Like I didn't have an HR person who would go do it. Even if I did, I was the one delivering the message.
Mhm.
It was really important to me to be like, I felt like they came to work for me. And so if they came
Mhm.
to work for me, I owed it to them to have that hard conversation when we needed to like separate and our paths weren't going to diverge. So those were always the tough calls. I think and the thing I learned too was like you better make sure by the time that you have that tough conversation and that they know what's coming, that you've given them every opportunity to show up differently, to make a correction, because
Mhm.
that's really like, as a leader, that's your goal is to like create the expectations and help them get there, remove the blockers. And so if you haven't done a good job with that, like it's more your fault than it is theirs that this isn't working out, and you have to take ownership. And I told somebody too is every person who leaves or every person you get rid of, there's a lesson. Like you have to
Mhm.
learn something from each of those things, even if you're like, well, they weren't a good fit. Okay, well then something was wrong with your hiring process or your onboarding process. So like there's still always a lesson learned. You can't just be like, oh well, it didn't work out. You're never going to get better if you do, if your mentality is like that.
Wow, that was amazing. That I like the way just the way you said that was absolutely perfect. Yeah, I mean, just like looking for the small thing. It's. I mean, I think we've talked about the book very briefly, Extreme Ownership, right? So
Yeah,
like when things like that happen,
back
yeah, you
here.
have it. Yep, I got it right there on my shelf as well. Um, when those things happen, I mean, there's an opportunity. There's an
Yeah.
opportunity in literally everything. You might get stuck in a little bit of people might say you get paralysis, by analysis or those kind of things. Well,
Mhm.
just reflect on it, think about it. And maybe something might come up. Um, so
Yeah,
thank you
and
for
I
sharing
mean,
that.
yeah, to your point too, like I think it also impacts the team. Like one way
Hmm.
or another, even if it's like this was the most obvious, decision to let somebody go or whatever, like it still creates a rift of trust in the team of like, I mean, anytime somebody's let go, they think, okay, well, could it be me? And so if you're
Yep.
able to reflect on it and share like, here's what we could have done better as a company, or like here's what, like how we're going to move forward, it creates okay, like I'm not going to focus on what just happened or the negative or the if, ands, and possibilities. I'm just going to focus on like what's in front of me and like the path that we're going to forge going forward. And it helps like that's also your role as a leader, right? Like your tip
Hmm.
of the spear, you have to keep everybody's eyes looking forward because where you're looking is where you're going to go. So don't have them, like anxious about what just happened. Bring it out in the open. I
Hmm.
just read the No Rules Rules book, and it's like about Netflix's
Hmm.
culture. And they say sunshine it. Like if they made a mistake, if something hard happened, you bring it to the light and then you move past it. Like,
Hmm.
and I love that because I'm like, that's a hard thing to do sometimes. And it's also very counterintuitive of what you're told to do as a leader. Like you're told to never admit mistake,
Yeah.
and never show weakness and all these things. And that's kind of bullshit, to be honest.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and you just squash it, right? Like nothing. Oh man, nothing travels. I mean, we're talking about COVID. Nothing travels faster than a virus than gossip, right? That
Right.
goes like that'll go through an organization like that. And
Mhm.
those are the kind of things where, as soon as you start noticing some of these things, you have to squash, like you said, like bring it to the light, and squash those kind of things.
Yeah.
Um,
Own it.
so obviously at that moment in time, reflecting on that, like morale had to take a pretty solid hit. So how did you keep your teams engaged during that time?
So I did it was hard too because it was remote and we were really most of our team was in the Pacific Northwest, so we were in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, a little bit Alaska and Montana, but we really got to see each other pretty often. But then, when COVID happened, we didn't see each other. And so you do start to like lose that level of trust. So I started doing virtual town halls, CEO town halls almost every other week. And just kind of like, I mean, because honestly, in 2020 and 2021, that's how much information we were getting, is like every 2 weeks we had to like stop, talk about what we're hearing. Also, I wanted to hear, like, as much as like I wanted to share the message of here's what I know, here's what I don't know, here's like what we're going to do to go
Mhm.
forward. I also wanted my team to tell me, because sometimes they would have intel from their hospitals and their surgeons that there's no way I would be able to get that level of intel, and I needed them to bubble it up to me. So I had to keep constant communication with people so they didn't feel isolated, so we kept going. But those CEO town halls, I mean, sometimes it would be me and cameras off and just
Yeah.
talking to, and that's when I know like new morale would be really low. Is like if I did that, and I think I had to enact 2 pay cuts during that time. And I did ask when those tough conversations of me telling people about the pay cuts. I never did it via email. It
Mhm.
was always on a Zoom call. At least I asked, can you guys please give me your camera? Like, can you please give me your faces? Because I knew it was going to be hard. I knew I was going to get some faces that were not happy, but like I needed that. I needed to see like some reaction. You know what I mean? Like, because I
Mhm.
needed to be there with them to feel it. And I
Yeah.
was the thing I was always most impressed about is my team. Like afterwards, I would get these messages of like positivity of like thank you for talking us through that, and like we totally understand. Because I would also say like if we want to get through this pay cut, like here's the things you can do to help us. Like we're going to lift it faster if we don't feel the effects and like the volume doesn't hit us. And
Mhm.
so if you guys see an opportunity to like go get more cases or do this, like this is where we're all going to pitch in, and it's going to help. And I mean, man, people showed up different when they realized like they had the ability to impact not just themselves but the rest of the company and the team.
Mhm.
Like that was the most positive of all the, like craziness and negative going on. Like there were so many like big moments of like positivity that I saw from my team.
Yeah, within all that doom and kind of like you could say doom and gloom, it's like you just like you flip the script, and there was opportunities that were that were available, and people could actually see when people could see how their work just ties into the overall organization, the mission and vision. I mean, that's a motivational driver on its own, right? I mean, there's different forms of motivation, but I mean, if I mean, COVID was hard, right? Like there's like everyone's motivation was declining at that moment in time, and I mean, I just love the way how you were able to kind of flip that script and then and lead in a way that shows where someone can make a difference.
Yeah, I mean it's really impactful, and I think it's like, to your point of like, when you were moving boxes and you're like, what are we even
Mhm.
doing here? Like if someone's like, oh, this is the part you're playing, and like you have to move inventory because like, like we need these supplies to go out to a children's hospital, or you're really like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I am moving boxes to help sick kids versus I'm moving boxes because my boss told me to move boxes. Like,
Yeah.
right? Like you need the why behind it. And I don't think anybody likes getting treated like a peon. And
Hmm.
just like having no why behind it, it's you need that if you want people to connect at a deeper level to the mission.
Yeah. I mean, positional authority is only going to get you so far. I mean, it might work in the short term, but it definitely won't work in the
Yeah.
long term.
No, I've seen so many people who try to leverage like that title, but they
Hmm.
don't, they don't lead in any other way. And it's like, and that's really where they're like, I'm trying so hard, I'm doing all the things, and it's like, no, you're not doing the one
Hmm.
thing you need to do, which is like talk to them like they're people, talk to them like you would want to be talked
Hmm.
to, like, and find out what motivates them and what's going on with them. Like to your point, like who they are as people. That's
Hmm.
the one thing you haven't actually tried, and it's going to make your life a lot easier.
Yeah. Um, so now, I think it'd be great if you could just share some advice to other leaders who are facing burnout or turnover or disengagement from the teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on kind of who, like what type of a leader you are, what I feel like is the most common theme of like leaders I work with and advise and coach is they are trying to do too much, to be honest. Like they're like they're so in it with their teams that they're not actually able to like look out and see the vision and craft like a compelling narrative, because they're like, oh, well, I need to cover the cases, and like, or my team might be burned out, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the work so they don't have to do it. But if you think about it, like you coming in and saving the day once and like covering the case or like giving them a break one day, yes, it's nice, it shows them that you're there. But if you that's the only way you show up as a leader, like you're not actually going to change or like impact change for them. You're just kind of band-aid fixing it. So if you want to change things for yourself, like, and your team, you have to pull yourself out to say, like, how are we going to like weather the storm, get out of this situation, and like, how as a leader can I actually remove roadblocks and create a better path forward for the team? And you can't do that if you're sitting covering cases or doing the day-to-day work. Like you have to pull yourself out. And a lot of leaders who are like, they almost have like survivor's guilt if they went from like that high stress OR ER environment that they and like, and also it's like that's where they know they were impactful. And so you sometimes don't feel that when you're a leader, but like you once you realize like I can create impact, once I create capacity, like your whole life starts to shift as a leader, because you
Hmm.
don't feel guilty about the capacity you have. You realize like it's the engine that's going to fuel like your creativity to create the right solutions for the team. And so it's getting like through that mindset shift, and it doesn't happen overnight. It just takes time, and sometimes you like some leaders don't ever get there, and then they unfortunately either burn out or self demote. And it's the goal is like those are probably the best leaders. Those are probably the most empathetic people and the people who want to work hard. So it's like, how do you get those people to actually stay in healthcare or med tech, whether it be like a healthcare provider or out in the med tech space? Like, I think the industry in general needs more empathetic people in leadership to help fix a very, very broken system.
Yeah, yeah, and emotional intelligence is a big one there, and also on top of that, I mean, that's typically the hardest transition that a lot of leaders face is when they were like when they were their hands were just in the work of what they were doing. And then, even as a business owner too, like with business owners, when they're hiring that first person to come on their team, and they're
Hmm.
like, well, this person's just not gonna do it as good as I do, so I'm gonna do it. Like again, there's a level to that. There's a cap to it. Whether you're a business owner or whether you are working in healthcare or you're in some sort of leadership position across corporate America, you will get capped. And like I
Yeah,
love what you
you're the
said.
bottleneck,
Yeah, but you can be the engine, right? You can be the
right?
engine that drives all these things in a forward upward direction. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, and it takes time, to your point. Like, yes, the person isn't going to do it exactly like you, or and maybe they won't be as good as you to start, but like if you spend the time like training them, working with them, showing them, like not only will they probably be better in some areas than you were, like that's the goal, is you create a team of people that are better, and you build off of that, and then you 10x, right? Like the impact that you had as an individual, because you have all these amazing people on your team who buy into the vision and the mission. It takes time, and a lot of people are like, I don't have the time, and I'm like, that's the cycle you have to break out
Mhm.
of. Like you have to create the capacity and the time. Like there's no way forward if you say there is no time. It's like it's just like your health. Like you can't be like, I don't have time to work out, because what will happen is you will make time because you will become sick, and like your health
Mhm.
will like, so you have to prioritize the right things in the right places for the longevity and for like the good and the health of the organization.
Mhm. A lot of times what I like to say is it's like people who are in that, right? They're kind of in that burnout phase, or they're just in it, right? And they're
Hmm.
trying to manage everything kind of on their own, but it's also maybe doing a little bit of delegation, but they're just kind of in it. They're feeling stressed, they're burning out, and it's almost like there's like a gray cloud that's over their head. And like literally if they were to take like two steps over to the left or to the right, metaphorically, it would be sunshine and rainbows. Everything would be right there, but they don't see that. It's all foggy. They can't
Yeah.
see anything. So how do you help another a leader who's kind of facing that and kind of pull them out of that gray cloud, so to speak?
I think what I've found is a lot of them are like, because in healthcare too, there's so many protocols and so many rules. And when you start out, like you are literally supposed to stay in this box and like follow these rules. And then when you get to a leader, you're kind of like, okay, here's my box. Here's all the things I think I'm supposed to do. And you don't realize like you don't have that box anymore. Like you can step out of it. And to me, like the box is the gray.
Hmm.
The box is the cloud. So you have to be like, okay, like I really don't like doing this part of my job or this part of my job. Delegate it out. Like delegation feels like such a dirty word, but it's really not. It's like the solution. And what I think I was surprised about too is like, guess what? People are not you. So the things that you hate, someone might love. Like
Hmm.
someone's gonna like if you're like, oh man, I hate diving into these spreadsheets and doing these analytics, like there are people who love doing that. There are tools that you can be so creative and piecemeal the parts of your job that aren't your strong points out and kind of create this interesting path like forward and that blue sky type of like
Hmm.
job. But you just have to stop waiting for permission because no, I mean in my experience at least, unless you have a really good mentor, a really good boss who's going to kind of grab you by the shoulders
Yep.
and take you out of it, no one's going to tell you to work less or do, you know what I mean, or like do something different. You have to do it yourself. And like, and if
Hmm.
you have a strong team who like the balls aren't going to drop and they're going to work with you, and then you're also creating like this leadership capacity within your team and you're creating other leaders. And like that to me is the whole point of leadership, right? Is like building and creating other leaders. And then
Hmm.
you can have this amazing team and all be in the blue sky zone. But if you can't get outside of the box, like you all live in that unfortunate little bubble of like storm clouds, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I want to transition us over into your business. So Good Night Consulting, and
Ooh,
I absolutely love how you came up with that name.
thanks.
And it focuses on helping executives build revenue and scale sustainability. So, what inspired you in the first place to start this kind of work?
Yeah, I mean, I think where I started honestly was I really poured a lot of like my effort into working with frontline managers directly. And so I was doing a lot of coaching for like directors and managers and those were the people that honestly I felt like needed the most help because it was the hardest to go from that independent contributor to managing your first team and there wasn't a lot of guidance or training. But I realized it's really hard for people in that space to like want to invest in themselves or even find the time to do it. And so the companies that can see this, like, and them creating the pathways with the leaders, like that's who I'm working with now. And it's really the best path forward because you get like once you get buy-in from leadership, like to want this type of life for their managers and the rest of their team, it's this amazing like catalyst for growth that kind of happens. And so if you have like leaders at the top wanting things to be different and then, training for their leaders, mindset shifts, like all the things that happen that might seem a little woo woo, but like it is the core
Hmm.
of leadership. And once you make those shifts and you start, leading with like intention and showing up of like, okay, like, yes, these are our goals, but like, what's our bigger mission and aligning like your goals and your mission together? Because to me, those are two separate things. A mission is a little bit more abstract, but
Hmm.
goals are time based. Like you see real catalysts and real change. And so that's kind of where I'm at now is working with organizations and leaders. And my sweet spot is working with companies that are like 100 people or less because
Hmm.
it really feels like those are the leaders that like it's so hard for them, especially owners, operators in the C-suite to
Hmm.
get out of the day to day because like they feel like that's impactful. Like some days as a senior leader, your day is just like filled with meetings and you're like, what did I even do today?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you didn't like as a leader, I think that's the hard thing too. Like the higher up you go, the less you actually do. I know, like it's like kind of counterintuitive, but that's the reality. It's like you're not doing the work anymore. You're not like building the widget or, showing up in surgery, but
Hmm.
you need to be able to carve the path forward and like give yourself the permission and the capacity to do that because that to me is like high impact, like high creativity work. And if you're in survival mode, like your brain literally cannot get to a creative state. Like your amygdala is in overdrive, right? Like you are not going to be able to like get your brain to think of solutions. It's just going to be thinking of like how do I survive today?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you need that brain space, right? And if you're doing the, all the hands-on work, right? Your job as a leader is to think strategically and then,
Mhm.
drive the where the team is going to be going, and they're all and everyone else are all the technical experts. And I mean, and it's okay to leverage that. Like it's okay, right? Like if someone needs
Right.
to hear that, it is okay. You like that is what they are there for.
Yeah.
Um, so when you uh when you're consulting or coaching and you enter into an organization, what's the first thing you look for, and what's the signal that tells you that there might be something that is off?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is where are the senior leaders spending their time and energy? And a lot of times what I see is like the senior leaders are even doing things that are like below even where they were with their technical skills. They're like, oh, well, I'm running the invoicing, or it's like, wait, hang on. Because they're so worried about cash flow or like what will happen. And it's like you need like that is not with your experience, like where you need to be spending your time. Like you can have somebody do that, especially with AI now. Like there's so many tools and resources you can do to automate a lot of those processes. So it's like if they it's like the trust, it's a very hard cycle to break on your own if you're in it because you really can't see a path forward and you also feel like you can't create the safety net to get you out of it. And so that's been kind of number one is like, are they spending time doing things that are not growing the business and both in the way of like business development, getting new business, and then also like growing their team. Like there's two parts of that. It's like growing the capacity of their team. And what I've also noticed is younger generations as they're coming into the workforce, like if they're not growing, they're going. So you have to create like, especially when you're in a smaller company space, like the paths forward for people. Like they can't be like, I'm going to be this entry level position forever. So you have to kind of be thinking like, how am I going to continually grow the organization to create opportunities for these people that are here too? So,
Hmm.
and those are big picture questions, and you have to be thinking big picture, not doing invoicing, doing the schedule,
Yep.
the little day to day things.
Yeah. As you're talking about, the new generation, I was just reflecting back. So my wife has a business. It's a wedding and event planning business,
Oh yeah.
and I help out with it here and there, but she's got a team, right? And she's got basically one full time employee, and she is 22, very young, just came out of college. But the thing is like when that's what this younger generation, and I mean, quite frankly, I remember this too when I was kind of first coming out, is like, we want to do the work that we've been spending the past 4, 5, 6 years just studying, and just
Right.
let's get like let me get our hands dirty, but that doesn't happen. And I think that's known as college students are getting ready to kind of transition out of college and going into the workforce. But you know, this individual is my wife's right hand woman, and she gets everything. Like, she executes, and she is, I mean, just a savage at the work that she does, because she gets it done so very well. And the reason
Mhm.
is, it's like, there's a vision. Like, here's where, she said, like, here's where we can go. Here's the things that we can do. What strategies do you think? And then she leverages her social media, because Gen Z is like
Oh yeah.
very very good at social media, and helps out with that. But it's just like, giving they no one wants to fail. Like, you give people the
Right.
responsibility, right? And there's gonna be some guiding and some coaching that's gonna be along the way. That's expected. But there's gonna be some points too where they're gonna trip up and fail. And that's okay too. Like, let it happen, because those are where the lessons are gonna be learned. And you know just like weighing in on that, and just providing that opportunity for the new workforce that's coming in, is it can literally slingshot your company in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%. There's another great book. I actually just pulled it out. It's called Culture Code. And it talks about that exactly, like how you as the leader, like you create like I mean, it's like being a coach, right? Like you're not going out in the field and running the play. You're working the team through the play so they can execute, but they also know if they need to change and pivot, like what the goal is and what the objective is, because like as a boss, you're not going to be over their shoulder the whole time. They have
Mhm.
to be able to use their strengths, their ability to think, and execute, right? And they're
Mhm.
some and probably like to your point, like they're going to be able to do so many more things better or different. And so if you just learn to leverage like all of those unique skill sets around you as a leader, like man, you are just going to be the engine and the catalyst, like
Mhm.
moving things forward versus if you expect everybody to be you, like if you expect everyone to be you, behave like you, do the job like you're still bottlenecking in your own way,
Mhm.
right? Like let them be creative, let them use their own gifts and their capacities. And like if they see the vision and they buy into it, like you're gonna be unstoppable.
Mhm. And I mean, they also fill the gaps. Like, you're not going to be perfect at everything, right? And
Right.
you want to hire people who have the skills that you don't have. I mean, I remember I went out on to do this is years ago. I had a team of individuals that were with me that I was going out on an exercise with, and this was while I was in the military, and I didn't have all the skills, and I just like laid it on the table. I was like, look, guys, I I do not know everything, and I'm really going to be leaning heavily on each of you. But what I am going to do is I'm gonna take us in the right direction, and I'm gonna make sure that you are all taken care of.
Yeah.
And they all performed, right? And this is like, and I was like, I kind of rolled the dice on this one. I was just reading some leadership books. I was like, all right, let me give this a shot, and it works, right? And it's just empower, give that empowerment and then be transparent.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like there's to empower your team, like that is, the true like measure of a leader of like can you empower them? Like, if they go out there and they're like, "Oh, finally, like he's not here. I'm gonna, I'm gonna take a nap. I'm gonna
Mhm.
kick my shoes off." Like that's when you've kind of embodied that leader that they're like, "Oh God, this guy, like is a micromanager. He's just having us work hard for
Mhm.
him or like so he looks good." Like
Mhm.
that's those are the leaders that aren't able to like instill that vision and that excitement in their team that like I'm a part of this where I'm going to drive this forward in my own unique way and I'm going to see like a positive outcome from it.
Mhm. Yeah. So I want to kind of take us a little bit into your kind of like personal side. So, um, talking about balance, right? Just in your life, and I'm sure you've had these conversations with the leaders that you work with. So, how do you maintain your own personal balance between the consulting, the coaching, and just life in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I found is like every stage, like going into starting your own thing, like, I definitely had to relearn this lesson because, when you start your own thing, like you kind of go all into it.
Hmm.
And I mean, and I remember like my friends would be like, "Hey, like are you?" I'm like, "I really got to get work this weekend." They're like, Didn't you quit your job?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, this new work and I really wanted to do it, but at a certain point you're like, that's not sustainable. Like you might love it, you might be excited
Hmm.
about it getting off the ground, but you've got to find that new balance." And I think what balance looks like for me is totally different what it looks like for anybody. Like, for me, my weekends are with like our teenage kids and my partner's kids but then for whatever reason like Mondays are my like day that I catch up. It's the busiest day in healthcare, so I find like a lot of my clients can't meet on a Monday, so like that's my day that I would go out for a hike or like run, do my errands and nobody else
Hmm.
is out and like you find your own ways to kind of make balance happen. And I think that's my thing is like I like healthcare, I like med tech because there are conferences you go to. There are like things that happen in the evenings and networking and travel. And then I've never felt bad about okay, well I had to go travel and work this weekend. I'm going to like do my own thing on Monday or Tuesday because there's nothing going on.
Hmm.
And you also have to respect that and create that time because I realized like when during COVID, I didn't give myself enough of that. Like I just, like and burnout was real and
Hmm.
I did not give myself like the space and capacity because the other thing was like is everybody you were so accessible. Like you couldn't see or
Hmm.
talk to anybody or I mean you couldn't see anybody but yet like I remember I had people FaceTiming me like all the time and I felt like what is this new thing where people feel like they can just FaceTime you at
Yeah.
7 p.m.
Yeah.
Like it felt very intrusive to me. But I had to realize like, okay, I don't have to answer. Like, I don't need to answer. I don't need to also justify like why I don't want to hang out or this. It's like,
Hmm.
no, I can't. It doesn't matter if it's just like for me gonna sit like and have a fire and read a book and like just or like go out in nature and go for a hike. Like I don't need to tell somebody I'm choosing this over spending time with you. Just need to say, hey, I'm busy. Like I'm not doing that. And that's like the unapologetic, like my time is sacred. My time with my family, my time focused on me, my health, or just like my doing nothing time, whatever it might be, whatever you need, like recognize it first. Don't apologize for it second.
Hmm. Yeah, balance does look, it does look different for everybody. And, I think also balance is going to look different in different periods of time, right? When you first started
Hmm.
your business, I mean, like I tell everybody, when you first start a business, you just got to kind of eat it. Like you're just going to work a ton. And that's just how it is, right? And sometimes some people say, well, I don't believe in balance. Well, I mean, maybe, balance means, different things for every single, individual, but it's kind of about like, what works for you. Like you said, like guarding your time. That's something that I take personally. Like, as I have my 4 to 8 o'clock routine. So in the morning, and that is
Hmm.
that is my time. No one's up. It's my time. It's guarded. It's someone else. I used to work for a global organization, and they would be like, and I would be wanting to be on calls at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. No, like I
Yeah.
was no, like I need, if you want me to operate at the level that you were paying me for,
Right.
then I need this time, and it's about guarding that time. And what I have found is the ability to guard your time that is for you. I have found myself a whole lot less stressed than all my other colleagues, because
Yeah.
I'm literally grounded every single day when I start my day.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point too about like just protecting your time, like, if you think about like senior leaders and like, executive C-suite people, if you're like, I need to meet with you, I need to do this, if they're like, sorry, I can't, you don't think like, what could you possibly like how could you not be available to me? You just assume, oh, they're busy. And like your time is a commodity. And or I'm sorry, not a commodity. Your time is precious. Like your
Mhm.
time should be something that like not everybody has access to and the resource for it. And you say, I'm going to give this to you, like this is my allocation. If that doesn't work for you, like we can try again next week. But
Mhm.
this is how I've figured out how to work. And what people end up doing is respecting that. Like
Yep.
they're not like, oh man, this guy, like they respect that. What they don't respect is somebody who just will drop everything and be always available, because then it feels like, oh well, it doesn't matter if we, like this person's just our resource to utilize
Mhm.
as much as we can versus like, something that's a limited resource. They're going to be a little bit more careful and strategic about when they ask for it and how they utilize it.
Yeah. And even for people who are listening, who are maybe business owners, and they're like, well, my clients, like, I need to get to them. I need to get to them right away. Like, I need to, address their question. Well, what I've seen is that when those individuals are able to respect their own time, and they have their specific hours and block off their availability, the client respects the time more often, and they're less likely to start canceling, because they know that you are, one, you're busy, and then two, you're busy
Mhm.
for a reason, because you're probably being successful at what you do. So,
100%. Yeah. No, I mean, you kind of show people what you expect, right? You
mhm,
show them how you expect to be treated. And so you need to respect yourself and your time in order
yeah,
to garner respect from other people.
yeah. All right, so I want to go through some quick like lessons, and then also rapid fire questions. So just like when you think of these, like whatever pops up in your mind, even if it's a couple of words or a single sentence, just kind of fire it off.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one. So when you think about the next generation of leaders in medtech, what's one piece of advice you'd give to them?
To be honest, it's care. Like I think just like some people get into med tech and they're like, oh, this is a great place to make money. That is not like your cup is never going to be full, and you're also never going to be really good at your job. Care about what your impact you're making to your patients, to your surgeons, to the hospitals, wherever you're delivering like that level of whether you're an engineer building something, a salesperson, a rep. Just care because you realize like what you're doing is impacting somebody, and that somebody could be your family member. Care, like that's
Hmm.
it.
Love it. What's a quote, principle, or mindset that guides you daily?
Ooh, Be Curious, Not Judgmental by Walt Whitman. That was, just it's so easy, and especially I was guilty of this when I was a CEO to just make snap decisions. But when you ask questions, like you learn so much more. And when you're open as a person, like the life takes you to really, really unique places if you're just willing to learn and be open.
Yeah, I love that because like not only just it's not just in work, that's outside of it too.
Mhm.
You know, someone may come up to you has a piss poor attitude. There's something behind that. If you ask the right questions, you'll kind of see that, and you'll be like, my assumptions were completely wrong about
Yeah.
about the situation.
100%. Yeah, not to get into politics, but imagine how different of a world it would be if people just ask questions about their beliefs and
Hmm.
their standpoints versus judging and, at any rate, like
Yeah,
I think it's a beautiful philosophy.
yeah, I love that. Um, in your view, what separates a good leader from a great leader?
Ooh, I think, a good lead like I think I was a good leader when I was trying to do it all and build with trust with my team. I think I became a great leader or on my journey to become a great leader once I realized like I needed to create the vision and step out of the day to
Mhm.
day and not just be, like it was my priority to be liked, but like to create opportunity for my team and to be respected and like realizing those aren't always the same things. Um, I feel like made me a great leader and somebody worth following.
I love it. Last one. So I want you to finish the sentence. Leadership is.
Impactful.
Yes, love it. Makes so I don't even think people realize how impactful leadership is. I mean, there's so many lives. Whether you have an organization of
Mhm.
50 people or 1,000 people, every single one of those individuals are going home to a family, and if they love where they work, they're going to carry that home with their family. And think about all the spouses and the children and all those people that affects. It's beyond just the work that you're actually doing. So I love
100%.
that.
What's the saying? People don't quit jobs, they quit bosses.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah. If
it's
you're a
very true.
leader, remember that.
Hmm. Well, Logan, this has been absolutely amazing. Your insights on sustainable leadership and building teams that perform without burnout is exactly what leaders today need to hear. So, before we wrap up, where can people find you? What's your social media? Different platforms that you use, all those things.
Yeah, my website is goodnightconsulting.net, and then feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. It's Logan McKnight. That's, just on LinkedIn. And then I post stuff on honestly, anything like this, YouTube. I do monthly webinars on leadership, and my next one's going to be on the 18th on how to go from an operator to an executive mindset. But yeah, so come visit the website. I've got free resources there too.
Mhm.
But I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with your viewers because like I said, I think I chatted with you when I very first started.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so it's been nice to reconnect now and have this great conversation.
yeah, and if anything, just follow Logan's journey. It's so inspirational to kind of see where you went. 'Cause I remember in the very beginning, you were like, "I'm all in. I got it. Like this, we're gonna make this work," and you have, and it's great to see that. So, and
Yeah,
you have such a wealth of knowledge too. So I just appreciate you coming on here and sharing all that.
absolutely. Anytime.
Uh, so, for those of you who are listening, if today's conversation hit home with you, or if you're ready to lead with more clarity and sustainability and impact, we have more episodes just like this one on the Mogul Journey. You can check them out on Mogul Performance on YouTube and also Spotify. And then, if you are someone um, who is looking to excel in your leadership capabilities, or you know someone who is, go check us out at www.mogulperformance.com. We got all the resources, all the information that are on there. And as always, like I say at the end of every podcast, don't forget, be a mogul.